Welcome to Bearded Biomed.
Hey everyone, welcome back to an all new episode of Bearded Biomed in 2026, beginning of season 5. And it's incredible to think that we will hit 5 years of the Bearded Biomed podcast this year. I'm not sure exactly what I will do to celebrate this occasion later on this year, but I want to do something big for everybody that's supported me up to this point. Those of you that have been day one listeners, those of you that have rocked with me and support me, I can tell everyone I never have an ego about it. I appreciate everybody that tunes in because you could be spending your time doing something else. But hopefully, I've imparted some knowledge and I've just helped some people on their journey through this profession. And I take that level of stewardship seriously. I'm at the point to where hopefully people recognize me as a voice in this industry and that I take wholeheartedly as a solemn responsibility to every single one of you that do listen to me and to the younger folks that are coming up into this profession. I'm not a young whippersnapper anymore starting at the very beginning. I've experienced a lot of things. I'm, constantly experiencing new things, which is the fantastic part of this career. I think that's a lot of part of the benefit of being a biomed is every day can be fresh and new and rewarding. So as we go forward, I look forward to honestly just soaking up everything I can that comes with the realization and the celebration of year 5. So I appreciate y'all. Um, Man, it took me a little bit to get out of episode and you know, part of the responsibility of speaking about this field and putting words to the mic is that I'm not just going to give advice or wisdom or representation of this profession without, being about what I speak of. I stand on business. So, with that being said, I have aspirations for my professional career path as well. I don't want to just stop at area operations manager. I want to move further in that. I want to be a director, either in a hospital system or director of field service ops, something to where I can make real long term strategic and logistical support for an entity and have like a top down perspective to really support technicians and to be a voice for them. If there's one thing I could say for my current technicians and those that have worked for me, I'm a manager that supports technicians and always will have their back and look out for their best interests. And I think that's important to have a lot of leaders in this career field that do that. So that's my passion behind it. With that being said, of what my aspirations are, I have my certifications. I got my CBAT, my CHTM, 15 plus years into this career field, managed for a little while now. Uh, and even back in the Army, doing that too. But I'm at that juncture to where I really don't think I'm going to be given an opportunity for a director position unless I have my MBA. It's just the fact of the matter. Do I think I have what it takes to take on that role? Yes. But there's always going to be a learning curve with every new position you take. Even though I feel I could do the job, I'm not that's not me saying that I think I would be flawless and step in day one and be wildly successful. Like, again, I don't have an ego about anything I do. There's always some level of learning curve, but I do feel like I have the mentality and a lot of the experience to really guide me and be successful in that role. But, it's not always about that. It's also how people feel about you. It's about, do you meet the prereqs, right? Which I can talk a little bit about today as well. We look at job postings, right? And, I have my grievances with some of them. Past episode I talked about how it's select here and there what companies want hospitals decide to post what the pay is for technicians, and it ends up just leading to, honestly, a waste of everybody's time and not really elevating the technician pay because it's all being hidden from everybody. So nobody actually knows what the real value of our worth is. Really, the only time you see a pay rate shown on a job position is that it's required by the state. And, I wish there was more of that. It would cut out a lot of the unknowns. But the other part of job postings that I'm alluding to here is you have your prerequisites and then you have preferred. So when you start getting into elevated management positions, a prereq is going to be, bachelor's at least from an engineering or management standpoint. But if you scroll down a little bit further, it'll say preferred. And then if you look on LinkedIn as well, you'll see how many people are applying to these positions with certain credentials. And I say this to all of my technicians and people I speak with all the time. If you want to separate yourself, if you want to give yourself the best fighting chance, you have to really set yourself up credential wise to where it can't be held as a reason that you weren't given an opportunity to possibly interview or even to outright win the position, right? So this can tie back to some of you younger folks that ask me all the time, what about the CBET? Well, obviously I'm a proponent of certification. I think the merit of it is wholeheartedly worth it. I do believe that it's not for everyone. And I say that only because I didn't feel that I needed my certification till a certain point. But when I needed it, I needed it. So, depending on, let's say you want to go work for a certain company or certain hospital system, they might have that as a prereq to where, after a year in, you need to have your CBET. And they do this because it is an accrediting thing for them too. So where they say all of our technicians are certified. This is the level of care that this hospital gives, and this is the level of our technicians that we have. It's a part of the system, right? So going back to the MBA aspect of it and what led me to right now, which I started towards the end of the year last year as well on my MBA. I'm currently in school now for MBA with specific study in healthcare management. My goal, if I do not take a break whatsoever, and I'm just taking classes for the entirety of 2026, I will have my MBA completed. And at that point, all that's left is for the dominoes to align. I also tell people when they're looking for jobs, just my experience and being a hiring manager and also, you know, having a lot of relationships with other hiring managers and just picking their brain. I think we also don't pay credence to some of it's luck, right? It's about everything aligning for that perfect moment to where the job pops up to where you're in the right position in your life. You're obviously in the right geographical location you want to be at, unless you're relocating to, apply to that job. You got the right credentials you need to have. Like everything should align for you to get that dream job you want. And I do think there is a level of luck in it as well. I've been fortunate enough in my career thus far to where I haven't needed to leave my current company yet. And that's partially because they have consistently looked at me, and when I show them my value, they reciprocate it. And some of that, folks, whenever you get to that point to where is it time for me to go or is it time for me to move further up the chain in this current company or this current hospital system, what is your leverage? I tell technicians all the time, set yourself up to have the maximized leverage you possibly can. The benefit of the leverage that I've hashed out is that I am not only qualified for my position, but I am also tackling and going after other credentials and experience that will make me overly qualified or qualified for a next leg up. There's also the advice of don't make lateral moves unless it's one for peace of mind, work life balance. If you're making a lateral move just to get a maybe $1 to $2 bump, I don't necessarily agree with that unless again you maybe have a poor manager or you don't like certain things within the company, or like I said, your work life balance is out of whack. There's reasons to make lateral moves. But if everything's going swimmingly, you know, you're able to pay your bills, you're able to save, get your 401k, things of that nature. Like, hunker down and really plan what that next step is going to be for you. What does it look like? What can you possibly do to set yourself up for that next step? And I will say, after speaking to some of you guys last year that are either in the adolescence of this career field, or maybe let's just say less than 5 years, you don't have a plan. And it's not that it's time to start making a plan. I always say, and you might even get asked this in interviews, where do you see yourself in however many years or whatever? You don't have to have a detailed bullet point, but where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself going? That can change as well. In the beginning of my career, I never fathomed management, but I also look at it as, as long as you are being reflective on a year to year basis of what went right for me, what didn't go right, what do I want out of my career, where, you know, am I happy where I'm at? There is a level that most people in America don't get to say is, do they enjoy their job? And I do think a lot of the folks with the mentalities that we have in our career field, we have the benefit of saying that we enjoy what we do, but it may not necessarily be enjoyment of where we are doing it at, if that makes sense. So that is that's part of where my mentality's at. So right now, like I said, I'm trudging through school, you know, kicking butt, taking names, about to start piling on 2 classes at a time, which may not seem like a lot, but it when you got papers every week, discussions every week, project check-ins every week, of course, you're doing final projects for verbal final exams as well, presentation symposiums that you got to plan for and all that. In between the day-to-day job, of course, I've taken on the next step with the nonprofit. We were able to accumulate some funds. We are eyeing some very large grants that we're going to start applying for, which is a whole nother endeavor. I'm waiting for folks to actually go on the website and apply for a scholarship, which you can do now, and, start issuing out these scholarship funds we've accumulated. I'm in constant back and forth discussion with multiple companies to become foundation partners and continuously grow what we've been successful at building in less than a year. So, and of course, my family, like, I am a very hands on dad. I want to experience everything I can with my son and my wife. And, it's about prioritizing and making sure that you're getting everything you can out of your day to day. And there's still more that I'm, dropping the ball on. I would like, now that I finally have my shoulder to where it needs to be. I've finally finished rehab, because I had surgery on that last year. I'm trying to make more time for my mental health as well. So getting it back in and enjoying more of my hobbies, which I might just do an episode, maybe next episode, just talking about all the different hobbies I'm into. Um, I think I think biomeds, a lot of us are very OCD, or we can be nerdy as well, which I am no affront. I am a huge nerd. I have a vast video game collection. I actually just got back into Pokemon cards. I was a very big Pokemon collector when I was a kid in the 90s. And now I wanted to get back into it. And I look forward to when my soul's all enough and we can do it together. I collect cameras. I collect antique toys. I've been getting really heavy back into reading books because I have another, goal to read more this year, which I just finished an incredible book. You haven't heard of it. The movie is actually coming out in March, but you gotta read the book. The book is one of the best books I've ever read. It's honestly one of my favorite books now. It's, Project Hail Mary. Lot of good humor, sci-fi. There is some actually, like, science and math jargon in there that is really well explained to where, like, the average person that isn't really, mathematically inclined can understand it. It is a very, like, I have yet to see anybody rate it less than a 9, or honestly, a lot of people are giving it perfect 10s. Like, it is a fantastic book. Just started with Artemis, which is also written by the same author, Andy Weir. Um, about a quarter of the way through that one. It's a slower starter book, but I'm enjoying it thus far. About to jump into the Dungeon Crawler series. It's about finding the little things that you can impart in between your day to kind of holistically round out everything that we got going on. So I'm gonna continue putting out a lot of my research pieces I did last year. I did enjoy very much so of doing deep dives into stuff that just we aren't constantly focused on. I think there's enough content out there in our space talking about cybersecurity, talking about right to repair, which of course, you know, I'll do my part in that. But I love bringing fruition topic points that we don't necessarily hit on all the time. And, I'm not going to be traveling as much to as many of the conferences as I did last year, simply because I got to focus on getting what I need to do and what I have set up, you know, forward for myself. I want to get this degree knocked out. So, I will be at Amy this year, one, because, I work with those guys all the time. But besides that, I did actually submit a presentation with a good friend of mine, Alan Moretti, that was approved. So I'll be giving my first presentation ever, and go figure at Amy on rural health. And I hope a lot of you guys check it out, sign up for it. It's going to be a great discussion. What are the facts? What rural healthcare systems are facing? What are some of the tools to combat it or, assist a lot of these places? I've taken care of rural health hospitals for almost 10 years now. Like I know these places like the back of my hand. I know what their constraints and, a lot of the things that they deal with. So very important to me to, shine light on that. So I'll be giving a presentation there, of course, like always, I'll be walking around and giving, interviews to booths and stuff, working for Amy on the floor for that. Really excited to go to Colorado. I've never been there. Outside of that, I can't think of any other conferences that I really plan on going to. I mean, I'll be doing some like speaking engagements for other things and, for companies and going to visit them, that kind of thing. But really just focusing on, again, knocking out things that I've put on my plate. That way in 2027, I can get back out there and really mix it up with y'all. With the statewide conference we're putting on together for Lone Star HTM, visiting, of course, hitting up Amy, hitting up the MD Expos. There's always conferences to go to, but prioritize what you got to do to knock things out for yourself. Congratulations, by the way. I've been seeing a lot of people got their the the notice that they passed their CBET, their CHTM, the really difficult tests. And I'm excited for you guys and gals that passed it. So, it takes a lot of hard work. And one thing I can leave you that everyone that is listening, watching, whatever, from a perspective of a hired manager, I am more willing, or a manager in general, I am more willing to invest into somebody that is willing to invest in themselves. If you care about, you know, elevating yourself, elevating others, you know, doing the extra things to make yourself a more well-rounded technician, whether it's, asking to shadow other techs to learn a new modality or asking for, training, going after your certifications, wanting to get back in school, like that's the stuff that makes me proud when I hear that they've accomplished something like that. So it's not to be taken lightly. It's a great endeavor. Yeah, just want to launch the new year uh, with episode one. We're gonna get more into the heavy nitty gritty stuff as we go forward. I just wanted to check in with you guys and you know be a little bit more chill about it going forward. Don't have to be suited and booted for being in my own office, which you can see I kind of changed up some stuff. I took the sign down just because um, I used it for the last MD Expo and I hung it up in the conference center. And, I kind of, not that I don't enjoy having the neon sign in here, but one, my son can be a bit destructive, and two, I kind of wanted more of a chill vibe space, which I feel like I've been able to accomplish in here. So you'll more than likely start seeing the sign, at least at Texas conferences going forward. I'm just kind of making my mobile rollout. But anyway, I would love to hear, any questions and comments about career. Would love to hear about your guys' hobbies or maybe certain things that you do on the side to clear your mind and that you just enjoy. But yeah, like, subscribe, share the show. We're gonna kick into 2026 and hit some really good topics as more information comes out with some heavy hitting stuff, and just continue to make this podcast worthy of you listening and tuning in general. So that's all I got, folks. May the beard be with you.
Bearded
Till next time, take care.
Biomed.